So it was about 30 years ago. I was just about ready to move to the United States. All I needed to do was figure out what I was going to do with my guns. In the end, I decided I'd keep the beat-up old .22 repeater. It wasn't worth anything. I might as well keep it. So I packed up my rental truck and I drove to the US border. When I got to the border, there's a little bridge, a little booth, and an agent in the booth. And the agent said, "Citizenship?" I said, "Canadian." He said, "What's your destination?" I said, "Amherst, Massachusetts." "And what's the reason for your trip?" And I said, "I'm moving there." He said, "You're moving there? Well, do you have your sealed immigration packet? Do you have your chest x-ray?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Okay, well, pull over to the office." So I pulled over to the office. So, like I said, I'm telling you this story happened about 30 years ago, and what a difference that makes. Inside the office, there was one counter with the immigration guys. You know, light blue, open neck, short sleeve shirts, fun, helpful, friendly people. On the other counter were the customs guys, black shirts, black ties, guns, not so friendly. So first I went to the immigration counter, and they were a little disorganized. They didn't know what forms they needed to fill out. They didn't know if I needed to be fingerprinted. So they said, "We're going to work on this. Why don't you go and talk to the customs guys?" So I go to the customs counter. He sort of stands there and glares at me and says, "Do you have a manifest of all your belongings?" I said, "Yep, I do." He said, "Are any of those less than 1 year old?" I said, "No." Huh. He said, "Do you have any firearms?" I said, "Well, yeah, actually I do. I have an old .22 caliber repeater. My grandfather bought it at a police auction. You know, it's not worth anything." He said, "Oh, do you have a firearms importation certificate for that .22 repeater?" I said, "No, I don't. I guess I'll have to get one of those." He said, "I guess you will. They take 3 weeks." So I said, "Well, you know, I'm not attached to this gun. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't really need it." He says, "Well, we don't want your gun. What are you going to do with it?" I said, He said, "You're going to have to take it back to Canada and get rid of it." So I walked back over to the immigration counter, and the guys there said, "You got everything all set. Here's your passport." In it, there's a visa stamp that says "good for one entry into the United States." So I said, "Well, there's a bit of a problem. I've got this gun. The guys at the customs counter say I have to go back to Canada to get rid of it." They said, "Well, we'll tell you what, we'll call over to the police on the Canadian side and maybe they can help you out." So I get back in the truck. I turn around. I go over the little bridge. I come up to the little booth. There's an agent inside who says, "Citizenship?" I said, "Canadian." She said, "How long have you been in the United States?" I said, "About 45 minutes. So she was probably a summer replacement, kind of a fresh-faced person, and she said, "45 minutes? What have you been doing for 45 minutes?" And I said, "Well, I've got this, I'm trying to move to the States and I've got this gun I need to get rid of, and they told me I had to come back to Canada." She thought for a minute. She said, "Well, there is a provision in the statutes where you can surrender your firearm to the Queen." So I said, "Yes, I want to surrender my firearm to the Queen." So she wrote this thing on a piece of paper and she handed it to me and she said, "Go pull up to the terminal." So I went to the terminal. There was all these truckers there with their loads of vegetables and oranges and what have you. And I waited in line. I came up to the counter. I handed my piece of paper to the woman at the counter and she looked at this and she said, "Oh no. "You've got a gun you need to get rid of?" And just then I felt this tap on my shoulder and this voice saying, "You've got a gun you need to get rid of?" And I turned around, and there was this guy, and I said, "No, no, no, no. This has got to be totally above board." And he said, "No problem." And he showed me his little permit. So I said, "Okay." So we went into the parking lot of the customs terminal, and he's checking out my gun, and I'm writing a receipt for $1. And the police cruiser pulls up. The policeman gets out and says, "What's going on here?" And I said, "I'm selling this guy my gun. He said, "Are you the guy from the U.S. border that immigration called me about?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, okay, fine." So I got back in the truck, went over the little bridge, came up to the little booth. The agent said, "Citizenship?" I said, "Canadian." He said, "What's your destination?" I said, "Amherst, Massachusetts." "What's the reason for your trip?" I said, I'm moving there." He said, "Are you the guy with the gun?" I said, "Yeah, I got rid of it." He said, "Welcome to the United States."